Well, thank you, Apple, for making the iPhone SE. I love the smaller size. I love the home button. It's just wonderful. Yeah, you like that? What if we make a newer, better one in 4 years? Really? You would do that? Oh, wow, that's amazing. Thank you. Yeah, you like that? And how about in 2 years, we make the exact same one, but it's more expensive? I guess that would make me sad. And how about in a couple years after that, we raise the price again, don't make it small, and get rid of the home button? I am sad. Awesome! Don't forget to renew your iCloud subscription, otherwise your memories will be erased. Ooh, my memory's not that great. Anyway, I better go sign up for iCloud. So the iPhone SE rumors have always kind of been all over the place, but I gotta admit, the latest report from Quo sounds pretty believable, and it's kind of reaffirmed by supply chain analyst Ross Young, who's gotten a lot of things right in the past. But if you recall my past few videos talking about the SE4, we're kind of pointing to the idea of rebranding the iPhone XR or iPhone 11, giving it a new chip and a lower price, and of course adding 5G, because that's, I guess, more important than water itself these days. But there was a problem with most of those reports that I had a hard time believing, and that was, either Apple had to make a completely new form factor, Ross Young saying they were experimenting with like a 5.7-inch LCD iPhone that would look kind of like the XR but be smaller, and I liked that idea, but what was far more likely was for Apple to recycle old assembly lines. That's pretty much always what the iPhone SE has been, and as much as I would love for them to just repackage the 12 mini or the 13 mini, please, Apple, those phones are awesome. Just sell them at a lower price, throw a new chip in there, call it a day. Like, that would just be such an incredible entry point to the iPhone lineup. But we have to keep reminding ourselves what the SE really is at the end of the day for Apple, and that is throwing a somewhat new chip into an existing design, usually a design that's been around for a long time that they can repurpose very easily. And that's why it's pretty believable to me that Ming-Chi Kuo is claiming the SE4 is essentially going to be an iPhone 12, which is very similar to that of the 13 and the 14. 6.1-inch OLED display, but he's also saying this would be the first iPhone with Apple's custom 5G modem. Qualcomm also, in a public statement, said they're expecting Apple to start switching to their own in-house design modems in the next couple years, so this is not completely out of the blue. We knew when Apple acquired Intel's modem business that eventually they would switch to their own in-house design, but it's reportedly been pushed back several times, so maybe if it doesn't go all that well, it makes sense to start it in the SE4, because the people who buy that phone aren't really going to care too much if the speeds aren't all that great. Maybe Apple's modem doesn't handle ultra-wide bands, or at least not very well. But just talking about the phone for a second, there's still a few things that we don't exactly know. For one, we've heard from Quo and Ross Young only about the 6.1-inch OLED display. They did not mention how many cameras were on the back, so that would mean this could recycle the iPhone 12 camera system or the 13 camera system, or, in my opinion, what would be smarter, go even cheaper and just have one singular camera on the back. We actually never got like the squared off new iPhones with a single camera on the back, so if we did get that one, it would probably look very similar to, the first generation SE or, iPhone 4 days. So I kind of like the idea of it just having one camera to differentiate itself a bit from the rest of the lineup, but knowing Apple and how they want to recycle old designs, this is probably still going to look like an iPhone 12. But the other thing they didn't mention in this more recent report is whether or not it would make the switch to USB-C. There were previous reports from Quo in the past saying that the SE4 would switch to Type-C, which makes a lot of sense to me because SE4 is not rumored to come out in the next couple months. The soonest I think Apple would do it is a spring event next year, maybe even later than that. But as far as we're aware, with development on the iPhone 15, it seems like the lineup is switching over to Type-C, and I'm sure that will make the entire iPhone lineup a little bit confusing for tons of people because, okay, the new 15s, they all have USB-C, but Apple, you're still selling, the old 14 and the 13. Aren't these all still using Lightning? Yeah, it gets a little awkward. So if you were to do a mid-cycle iPhone drop, introducing basically an iPhone 12 that also has a USB-C port, this would be a good time to do it because you could transition the entire iPhone lineup away from Lightning a lot faster than if you said, no, we don't need to do another SE until 2025 or 2026. Let's just push it off because then Lightning lives on. gone. Then Lightning is around for a while, and I don't like that. I don't want that, and I think similar to how Apple dropped the brand new iPad 6 months after the one prior simply because the Lightning port was introduced and they were like, oh yeah, we should switch the iPads to Lightning too. Similarly, it would make sense to kind of clean up the lineup a bit and get as many of the iPhones being sold over to Type-C as possible. That way it's, EU approved as an iPhone. And also I think it would just be awesome for those of you on a budget that are looking to buy a new iPhone. Hopefully the price doesn't go too crazy high, but knowing that it's a 6.1-inch OLED display means very unlikely that they'll be able to keep the price at the current $430. But if they're essentially recycling an iPhone 12, keep in mind that, the iPhone 15 will already be out by the time the SE4 is ready. So if we discounted the iPhone 12 again, another $100, it would be sitting at $499 right now. So maybe throw in a little Apple magic, whether that's removing the ultra-wide lens or just taking a slightly thinner margin because it's supposed to be the special edition iPhone, or hey, it doesn't have to use Qualcomm modems anymore, so maybe that saves Apple some money in some way, shape, or form. That will allow them to lower it to hopefully sub $499. So the SE4 could be like $450, same price as the atrocious iPad 10 that people love so much for no reason. But I got it. You know what it is? You know how they're gonna save a bunch of money? This is total speculation on my part, but it still makes sense. The SE4 will remove the physical SIM tray. They'll just get rid of that because, hey, iPhone 14s were all eSIM in the US and iPhone 15s are gonna be mostly eSIM, I think, in the US. Maybe physical SIM internationally, but to save on cost and to reduce complexity, they just remove the SIM tray from the iPhone 12, throw probably a 16 chip inside of it, switch to Apple in-house modems, add USB-C, and now, poof, you've got a relatively affordable iOS device that's likely gonna get 7 or 8 years of software support. It has USB-C, and unlike the stupid SE3, this one actually has MagSafe, which the SE3 should have had in the first place, and it has Face ID, and it has OLED, so LCD would officially be gone from the iPhone lineup, as would the home button, as would Touch ID. It would kind of be the end of an era, so I guess they'll have to do a newsroom post like they did for the iPod. The biometrics live on in our hearts. But yeah, the biggest downside of this SE4 is just that it's kind of ignoring the neglected group of smartphone buyers that really appreciate having a smaller, more compact device. I really hope Apple goes back to making mini iPhones eventually, but at least based on the polls that I've been running, it seems like the bigger the better when it comes to smartphone purchases for a lot of people, so maybe Apple's willing to just kind of take that loss with the SE as well and say, well, the purpose of it is to basically recycle an old design so that we can sell it for cheaper, and let's not make it about size, let's just make it about affordability, which is definitely going to be a huge bummer for those of you that like your home buttons or like the smaller compact iPhones. But if you just need a decent iPhone with a reasonable price and you're excited for USB-C, maybe the SE4 could be a decent option, but I could still absolutely see it disappointing a lot of people, especially if Apple prices it poorly. But I don't care. As long as we get rid of Lightning faster, I'm all in favor of it. So what do you guys think of the more recent round of reports? In my head, this makes a lot more sense than the previous reports talking about recycling the 10R or 11 designs because Apple's not manufacturing those iPhones anymore. And, just using displays from BOE is probably going to save Apple a lot of money, even if the display quality is a little bit worse, but they've got a year to figure all this out. So feel free to drop your thoughts down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I'll see you all in the next one.